everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the Lake Winnipeg Foundation's 2025 Annual General Meeting. My name is Chelsea Lobson, and I'm LWF's Programs Director, and I'll be your MC this evening. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are together on Indigenous land. Lake Winnipeg, the lake that we are working to protect, is a part of the traditional territories. Okay. No worries. Okay. A part of the traditional territories of the Innuit, Anishinaabe, Dakota, and Dakota people, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. Indigenous peoples have cared for Lake Winnipeg since time immemorial. Indigenous peoples have been deliberately displaced from and dispossessed of their traditional lands. Many of these lands are now enjoyed as parks, camps, and cottage communities that we lake lovers benefit from. Our monitoring and research activities take place across the lake's watershed. Because we have access to and benefit from water and land, our work intersects with failures to fulfill the treaties and failures to recognize Indigenous rights and Indigenous knowledge within colonial systems of water governance. We acknowledge and thank the original caretakers of the lands and waters. It is because of their efforts that we can enjoy the many gifts given by Lake Winnipeg. We see the health of Lake Winnipeg as a point of connection and shared purpose in a difficult ongoing conversation. And we are committed to protecting and restoring the health of this special place now and for future generations. At LWF, we also recognize the interconnection of environmental stewardship and social justice. Our mission to improve the health of Lake Winnipeg is deeply intertwined with our commitment to anti-racism and inclusivity. We are committed to building a diverse team of staff, volunteers, and partners working together to protect the health of Lake Winnipeg. And we want to make sure that today's event and all events that LWF hosts is welcoming to everyone. We aim to create a space that allows everyone to participate fully. If you have an experience here today that doesn't align with these values, please speak to an LWF staff person about it. All LWF staff are wearing these name tags so you can easily identify us. Tonight's AGM is a special one, as 2025 marks LWF's 20th anniversary. We are so glad to have you all here with us tonight, both in the room and online, as we mark this incredible milestone. Our program for tonight includes the business portion of our AGM, as always, a special musical performance by Ted Turk, an update on our work in 2024 from LWF's Executive Director, Alexis Canoe, and a special 20th anniversary panel discussion featuring the past chairs of LWF's Board of Directors and moderated by our current chair, Catherine Dompierre. Just a few housekeeping things for this evening. For those joining us online, feel free to use the webinar chat function to introduce yourself to other online participants and ask questions at any time during the evening. LWF's Community Engagement Coordinator, Kanak, will be on hand to answer your questions online or share them with the presenters to be asked live. Thank you to Phase 5 Productions and the LWF staff team for making this hybrid event possible. We're glad that our members from Winnipeg and beyond are able to join us tonight. And some housekeeping for in person. There is a reminder that the washrooms are at the back to the left down that hallway. There are some light refreshments, so please help yourself throughout the evening. And stop by our outreach table for our latest reports and other information. And for those online, all of the reports spoken about tonight will be available on our website. A friendly reminder to please turn off your cell phones or put them on silent. And this AGM is being recorded, so it will be available on our YouTube channel by the end of the week. I'd now like to get us started and invite Catherine Dompierre, Chair of LWF's Board of Directors, to call the formal meeting to order and report on official business.
Thank you, Chelsea. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 2025 Annual General Meeting. My name is Catherine Dompierre, as Chelsea mentioned, and I have the privilege of being the chair of the board. which means I get to chair this very important business meeting. I'm just kidding. It is required by our bylaws to have an annual general meeting with this business section where we have motions that you have hopefully seen in advance and have voted on. Whether you're joining in line or online or in person, we really appreciate you for being part of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation community. We value our members, and we are so appreciative of everything that you do for the Lake Winnipeg Foundation. As I mentioned, I'll be acting as chair of this meeting, and we will have our executive director, Alexis Canoe, who will be acting as the secretary. Now it is 7:11 p.m., so as chair, I will call this meeting to order. All materials that are related to this formal business portion of our annual general meeting were available ahead of time online on the Lake Winnipeg Foundation website. This included our 2024 annual report, as well as our audited financial statements and the minutes from our previous annual general meeting. Hopefully you've all had a chance to take a look at these documents ahead of time. According to our bylaws, we need to give notice to our members of the time and place of our annual general meeting. And this notice was sent to all of the members by email or mail, depending on your preferences. The voting of our AGM business was all done in advance to accommodate everyone online as well as those here in person tonight. All members in good standing are allowed to participate in the voting process. All of the votes were scrutinized, and in total, 30 members in good standing voted in this year's election, which means that quorum was achieved according to our bylaws. Thank you very much for taking the time to register your vote in advance of the meeting. So now let's go through our agenda and all of the different motions that you would have voted on in advance. So this first motion that's up on the screen is the approval of tonight's meeting agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation's 2025 annual general meeting be approved as presented. And this motion was carried. That's great. That means we can continue on. The second motion is the approval of the minutes from our previous annual general meeting. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation 2024 annual general meeting be held on May 15th, 2024, be approved as presented. And this was also carried. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the 2024 financial statements that were audited by Talbot and Associates. Be it resolved that the 2024 financial statements provided by Talbot and Associates be approved by the members of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation. This motion was also carried. We'd like to continue to work with Talbot and Associates for our financial work in the future, and so our next item of business is to appoint them as auditors for the 2025 fiscal year. Be it resolved that the firm of Talbot and Associates be appointed as auditors for the 2025 fiscal year by the members of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation. And this motion was carried. Next on our agenda is the election of our directors. The following people were recommended by the Lake Winnipeg Foundation Board for election as directors: David Horn, Bruce McLean, Becky Cook, Scott Higgins, and Jonathan Patterson. All of these directors have been part of the board previously and are up for re-election. We offer board terms of 1, 2, and 3 years on the board, just to make sure that we have not all of our board members leaving at the same time. And so we will have 3 separate motions here tonight for the election of our directors. The first one is, be it resolved that David Horn be elected to the Board of Directors of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation for a 1-year term, a term of 1 year, and this motion was carried. Welcome back, David. The second motion for the election of directors is, be it resolved that Bruce McLean be elected to the Board of Directors of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation for a term of 2 years. And that motion was also carried. So Bruce, you'll be back again. The final one for the election of directors is, be it resolved that Becky Cook, Scott Higgins, and Jonathan Patterson be elected to the Board of Directors of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation for a term of 3 years. This motion was also carried. So congratulations to all of our elected board members. I want to take a moment now to acknowledge our retiring director, Brian Allison. Brian joined the Lake Winnipeg Foundation Board back in 2016, a year before I joined, and has served a remarkable 9 years on our board. He's a chartered professional accountant, and so he served as our board treasurer from 2016 all the way until 2023. That's a long 6 years to be our treasurer on the board. He guided the Lake Winnipeg Foundation through an incredible period of growth, financial growth, and so we thank Brian so much for everything that he did to ensure that we remained financially sound as an organization. Brian is an avid canoeist and a fisher who enjoys exploring Manitoba's lakes and provincial parks. So on behalf of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation, Board of Directors, and staff, thank you, Brian, for your service, your strategic insight, and your commitment to our mission. Oh, yes, thank you. We have a small token of our appreciation for Brian, which I will give to you later, Brian. Also, we know that we have a wonderful membership that is very involved. If you would like to get more involved and you have an interest in volunteering for the board, one of our committees, or something else, or if you have any ideas, questions, or concerns about the Lake Winnipeg Foundation, please reach out to us. If you don't know any of us in person, or you don't feel comfortable talking to us in person here at this event, you can get the contact information from the Lake Winnipeg Foundation website and reach out that way. Or please see one of the staff people or one of the board members that are here tonight to ask your questions. We'd all love to chat with you. Great. That completes the formal portion of our meeting. I now declare that the Lake Winnipeg Foundation's 2025 Annual General Meeting is hereby adjourned at, let me check the time, at 7:17 p.m. Thank you. What did I say? Oh, thought I did something wrong. I will now turn things back over to Chelsea, the MC. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. The business portion is adjourned, but there's still lots of exciting stuff on the agenda. I'd now like to welcome to the podium LWF's Executive Director, Alexis Canoe, who will be providing an update on LWF's work and impact over the last year. And just a reminder for those joining us online, you can ask questions at any point in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you all for being here. I was told I need to move the mic closer, so please bear with me while I try to figure this out. Is that going to be okay? Okay. All right, it is that better or worse? I think it's about the same. Okay. I'll really lean in. It's an exciting meeting. Thank you all for being here tonight for our 20th anniversary. It feels like a really momentous occasion to celebrate 20 years of this incredible grassroots community-led organization. And I have the honor of sharing an update on our work over the past year. And I'll give you a sneak peek at what's ahead, what's to come. So we are, we are now about halfway through our current strategic plan, and we've been reflecting on where we are now and where it is that we hope to be in 2027 when our strategic plan wraps up. You see, we have a bit of a climb ahead of us. From the beginning, when LWF was founded, we've known that our members are the reason that we exist. Our members are the engine that drives LWF forward. And certainly we have always depended on our members' financial support in order to fund our work, but membership is so much more than that. The support of our membership community lends weight and influence to the advocacy work that we undertake. So when we speak up for policy change for the lake, our voice is stronger when we are backed by a strong membership community. Nothing drives public policy change quite like public pressure. And so that's why we set ourselves 2.5 years ago the ambitious goal of growing to 10,000 members. And as of December of 2024, we were at 1,104, so we do have work to do on this. but we see incredible potential in having 10,000 voices speaking up together for Lake Winnipeg. And I think the challenge ahead of us, while perhaps daunting, is an exciting one, because when I reflect on the past 20 years of LWF, on the influence that we've had at the size and the scale that we are now, it's absolutely remarkable. So to think of what we could do if we were 10 times stronger and 10 times more impactful is pretty exciting. That being said, we do have to seriously tackle our goal to grow our membership, and so we need to take some new challenges and shake things up, try different things, start new projects, reach out to new communities. In preparation for that, in the past year, we've built up our staff team so that we have the capacity to support more events and more membership engagement opportunities. I'm very excited to say that in celebration of our 20th birthday, we're returning to the community where LWF began with the Walk for Water in Denauder on August 24th of this year, so I hope you will join us there. It'll be another birthday celebration for LWF. We're going to celebrate all year. And we're also working to build relationships with new communities that we haven't connected with before. We want to provide opportunities for newcomer, immigrant, and racialized communities to visit, explore, and come to love Lake Winnipeg. By reducing barriers to accessing the lake, we hope to foster a new generation of environmental stewards here in Manitoba. And also, for our 20th anniversary, we want to make sure that LWF membership is accessible to everyone, that LWF is a community that anyone can belong to. So for the next year, starting June 1st, all the way until May 31st of 2026, we've reduced our membership dues to $20. $20 for our 20th birthday. So please, if your family and friends aren't already members, please invite them to join us as we celebrate 2 decades of incredible impact by grassroots community members. When it comes to goal number 2 of our strategic plan, our advocacy goal, we celebrated a huge success last year, and many of you were here with us at this time last year to raise a glass for the completion of the interim chemical phosphorus reduction solution at Winnipeg's North End Water Pollution Control Center. That new infrastructure was built as of June of last year, and it's infrastructure for sewage treatment that wasn't on any government's agenda until LWF members put it there. And now it has the potential to greatly accelerate phosphorus compliance at the North End treatment plant. We have proof, we have evidence that a system like this works in Winnipeg, because at Winnipeg's own South End Water Pollution Control Center, the chemical system worked for 2 years, from 2022 to 2024, to achieve the provincial phosphorus limit well before the biological nutrient removal system at that plant was built. Unfortunately, though, for phosphorus compliance at the North End treatment plant, the province is still requiring, I feel like I say this every year, thank you for coming back to hear me talk about this again. The provincial government is still requiring an expensive biological nutrient removal system. On top of that, not only are they requiring this system that hasn't been built for the past 20 years, but the latest provincial budget, which was released just over a month ago, provides 0 provincial funding to support the construction of that biological nutrient removal system. So a lack of funding, a lack of political will, and a stalled project that's 20 years old jeopardize phosphorus compliance and jeopardize the health of our lake. And so LWF members, LWF members have to do what LWF members do best, which is get out there and advocate for smart, effective sewage treatment solutions. We have the ferric chloride system. It's built at the North End treatment plant. It is not yet being used to its full potential. As of December of last year, ferric chloride, the chemical that binds to phosphorus in the waste stream, was only being dosed at 11% of the consultant's recommended rate. So we have tons of room to optimize this system to achieve phosphorus compliance. So I want to thank all of you who have used the template on our webpage to reach out to Manitoba's Minister of Environment. Chelsea and I had a meeting with the Minister of Environment last week, and he noted the public concern that LWF had raised over the last year. So your letters are definitely being taken note of, and please help us keep this pressure up so we can ensure that the chemical solution is used to achieve compliance. Now, looking outside the perimeter, because certainly sewage isn't the only source of phosphorus, the Lake Winnipeg Community-Based Monitoring Network continues to identify persistent, recurring phosphorus hotspots, helping us focus our efforts on areas where we need to be working to reduce phosphorus loading. Over the last year, we've worked very hard to streamline our data analysis process, and we've cleared the pandemic-related backlog. So we've now released all LWCBMN data up to 2023, which means we have 8 years of high-resolution phosphorus data on hand, telling us where phosphorus hotspots are located. And now we're building new partnerships and collaborations to analyze what the sources of phosphorus are within those hotspots. In 2024, we submitted a Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy request to the province to access data about provincial livestock, both livestock numbers and livestock manure, corresponding to the sub-watershed sampled by LWCBMN. So we'll use that livestock data alongside municipal wastewater data and other sources of land use data and RCBM data to do a large-scale spatial study to help us better understand what the causes of phosphorus hotspots are. And this year, LWCBMN is also celebrating its own birthday. It's the 10th field season of this remarkable community-based monitoring program. And this is an incredible milestone for a collaborative, province-wide initiative that started way back in 2016. This year, we also returned to hosting an annual LWCBMN gathering for our volunteers and network partners, and that's something we haven't been able to do since the pandemic. And we're also initiating new partnerships with both provincial and federal governments to ensure that the data collected by community volunteers is used to strengthen eutrophication policy for Lake Winnipeg. At the federal level, LWF is participating in an advisory committee to ensure that federal funding through the new Canada Water Agency is targeted to phosphorus hotspots. And provincially, we're working with the public service to combine RCBM data with provincial monitoring data and generate a collaborative map that will guide our collective efforts. Internally, LWF continues to work to strengthen our team and build a sustainable organization for the next 20 years. In 2024, we were proud to be the first charity in Manitoba to permanently adopt a reduced work week. This change has boosted our team's engagement, enhanced our employees' well-being, and really sharpened our focus on our strategic goals. We strengthened our financial reporting practices, and we developed new market-based salary ranges for all of our staff. We continue to diversify our funding sources to maintain our resilience even as we are all faced with global economic uncertainty. And through it all, we're proud of having maintained our focus for the past 20 years and sticking to our values even as the world around us changes. We're committed to leveraging our greatest strengths, which is the remarkable synergy that exists when a group of passionate community members connects with a group of experienced and knowledgeable researchers and turns that into powerful evidence-based advocacy. So I am definitely looking forward to the next 20 years, and I can't wait to see what LWF does together. Thank you very much. I think we have time for some questions. Mike.
How many years have you been with the foundation? We have a number of years with these different directors and board members. How many years?
I started in 2012, and I went to the Victoria Beach Walk for Water. That was like, it was raining that year in 2012. And yeah, so how many years is that? 13? Yeah. There's got to be a tougher question than that. Come on.
I have a very tough question.
Okay.
How come last year we pumped champagne for the phosphorus
knew we set a very difficult precedent to follow. So we're just gonna have to, oh, sorry. How come we didn't pop champagne this year? Which we did last year when the interim chemical phosphorus solution was built. This is awkward posture, but I think you can hear me better if I do this. It might be, I'll have to ask the board if we can afford champagne at every AGM going forward. Okay. 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 Yes.
Question just on something that seems to contradict itself, I'm not understanding. Page 11, you have a graph at the top left page, target. 50% of the annual income comes from unrestricted private donations. You seem to be hovering from 54% to 34%, right? But on page 16, on your financial summary, your little pie chart seems to have different ratios for
Uh-oh. Okay, I might have to do a little research on this question, and so 34%, I'll have to look into it. I'm sorry. Any other less hard questions? Yes.
Alexis, I'm just interested in some of the ideas of the staffing board around how to get to 10,000 members. You know, obviously we can encourage friends and family ourselves. Is there other things that we as a group can do, or maybe since you just hired somebody into that position, your plan hasn't been, you know, fully developed?
Yes, we are working on a number of different approaches. So we want, as well as getting, what's our plan to get to 10,000 members, and how can our membership community help us? We're working on developing new ideas, and certainly spreading the word is an important part of it. We think that everybody knows about LWF, but that's not necessarily the case. So the more that people can talk about the work that we do, talk about the organization that we are, the more it helps. Equally important to us, as well as the absolute number of 10,000 members, is increasing the diversity of our membership community and making sure that our membership community reflects the diversity here in Manitoba. And so that's part of our one of our projects now is to seek funding to engage with newcomer serving and immigrant serving organizations here in Winnipeg, and to provide opportunities for those communities to access the lake, because often the lake is perceived by folks who haven't experienced it as a place that they might not have access to, or they might not be welcome at. So we want to break down some of those barriers and connect our existing membership community with new Manitobans who will come to love the lake just as those of us who've grown up with it have. So there's lots of room for lots more ideas as well, but I think alongside that number is certainly making sure that we're accessible and welcoming to all Manitobans. Yes, Robin?
The Lake Winnipeg Foundation is concerned not just about the lake, but the watershed, and I'm curious, wondering what kind of relationships the foundation currently has with organizations as far as Montana, Rocky Mountains, up in the Saskatchewan, the Assiniboine watershed, and other areas, and the Lake of the Woods and so on. So I'm curious, what kinds of relationships do the Lake Winnipeg Foundation have with all those organizations?
Yeah, most of our relationships within the watershed right now are with watershed districts that work throughout Manitoba with landowners, with community partners on the ground. The data from the community-based monitoring network is showing us that a lot of the hotspots are very localized within Manitoba, and so those are the areas where we're focusing on building those partnerships. There's certainly a lot of room to grow when it comes to building watershed partners. As you mentioned, there are many jurisdictions in the Lake Winnipeg watershed. We want to tackle some of the closest phosphorus hotspots to the lake first and build out from there. Yes?
What's LWF's involvement in the current class
Yes. What is LWF's involvement with the class action lawsuit between the First Nations, the 10 First Nations around Lake Winnipeg that are bringing a lawsuit against the city, the provincial, and the federal governments? I've had conversations with the lawyers representing the case. Nothing more than that, but certainly I'm very willing to share my knowledge, what I've learned about environmental regulation and freshwater protection in Manitoba. And my understanding is this is going to be a years-long process, and the LWF board is certainly supportive of this. We'll help as we can. Yes.
What is the health of the lake at this stage when you compare it to what I'll describe as the desired state, and how has that changed over the last 5 years?
What is the health of the lake at this state? Thank you, Mackenzie. And how has it changed over the last 5 years? Well, the lake is not what we want it to be. It is not what we have expected it to be in terms of our ability to swim, to use the water, in terms of the fisheries health. But it is a bit of a long-scale change. So over the last 5 years, if you looked at how phosphorus loading had changed to the lake, you would probably see a very peaky, flashy graph, because when it's wet, when we have a flood year, we have lots of phosphorus loading. When it's dry, like this year, we'll have less phosphorus loading, less water carrying the phosphorus to the lake. But at a multi-decadal scale, looking from the 90s on, we've seen increase over time of phosphorus loading to the lake. And so taking a step back and looking at what the lake was like in the 80s and the 90s, and what it's like now, I think people's expectations of the lake have changed, right? It used to be very unusual to see an algal bloom in July, and I feel like now it's much more common. And so the ways that we interact with and use the lake have changed significantly in the last, it's 50 years now, right? Okay, thank you very much for your tough questions and your easy questions, and I will follow up with you on the finances.
Okay, thank you, Alexis, and everyone for the tough questions. That was great. I'd now like to invite to the stage Ted Turk, who will be performing a song he wrote to honor Lake Winnipeg. I think our first ever musical performance at an AGM. Ted is a Lake Winnipeg cottager, having spent 45 years on the west side and the past 20 years on the east side at Victoria Beach. Lake Winnipeg is a part of him. You can find him during July and August, hanging out with ukulele aficionados out back the bakery at Victoria Beach. Welcome, Ted. Do you want me to move the mic for you?
Okay. 1, 2. Thank you so much to the foundation for inviting me out tonight. Lake Winnipeg, also known as the Grey Lady. Part of every Manitoban, I think. The song is about her fight for survival. I've known the Grey Lady from the day I was born. Battled her rage, weathered many a storm. She's cradled my children with soft summer ways, but now the Grey Lady has seen better days. The rivers and streams pump the poison in. She's mainlining phosphorus end on end. And the wetlands we drain just increase the rush. Now she's just a big John, the North Dam won't flush. I'm dying, she's crying, her screams ride the wind. We just turn our backs, it's a terrible sin. Now she's wearing a shroud that's putrid and green. That once proud gray lady now lives in a dream. Now foreign invaders litter her shores. The gray lady sighs, I can't take anymore. Their razor-sharp bodies, they cut like a knife. They butcher our toes and they choke off her life. Let's not point fingers, it's both them and us. The cities, the farms have betrayed the trust of the children that no longer play in her waves. And that once proud gray lady had seen better days. I'm dying, she's crying, her screams ride the wind. We just turn our backs, it's a terrible sin. And she's wearing a shroud that's putrid and green. That once proud gray lady now lives in a dream. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ted. That was a beautiful reminder of how we can all use our unique talents to honor the lake. Thank you so much. Okay, and now I am very excited to honor our esteemed panelists for tonight's discussion, the past and current chairs of LWF's board. As our panelists come up, please come up and find your spots. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge Anne Doherty, a founding LWF board member who chaired the board from 2007 to 2009. Anne, who passed away in 2019, loved her family cottage in Matlock and was passionate about protecting the lake. If the panelists could please join me up here. There's a name tag on each chair so that you're in order, chronological order. And as I introduce you, if you could just give a little wave so we all know who you are. So here with us tonight is Robin Mather, LWF's founding board member, founding board chair, an Anglican priest from Dunnottar, Manitoba. We have Bruce Smith, a Dunnottar community member and volunteer organizer who served on the founding board. Karen Boyd from Victoria Beach, a former RM counselor with extensive volunteer board experience. Roger Malo, a freshwater scientist from IISD Experimental Lakes area with experience monitoring lakes around the world. Mike Staten, a freshwater scientist from IISD Experimental Lakes area with Experimental Lakes area. There's lots of experimental lakes on this panel. Mike was part of the earliest experiments on the role of phosphorus in causing algal blooms. Selena Randall joined LWF with a doctorate in freshwater ecology and extensive experience connecting stakeholders and translating science into policy. And last but not least, Bruce McLean, who brings 20 years of experience coordinating community-based monitoring programs, most recently with First Nations in Northern Alberta. And moderating our panel of past board chairs is Catherine Dompierre, current chair of the LWF board. Catherine is a VB cottager and an engineer who also serves on the board of the Manitoba Eco Network. So now I'll pass it over to Catherine for the panel.
Thanks, Chelsea, and thank you all for being here today to help share your wisdom and your perspectives on the Lake Winnipeg Foundation. You represent our amazing history, so we really appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight. This is such an amazing way to celebrate the 20 years of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation by honoring our history and looking ahead together to our future. 20 years ago, the Lake Winnipeg Foundation was founded in the lakeside community of Denauder by community members who were concerned about the changes that they were seeing in the lake. And so it's so neat to meet some of those founding members here tonight. We're going to start off with questions to two of those original members, Robin and Bruce Smith. As founding members of the board, could you describe to us the early conversations that started the Lake Winnipeg Foundation and what spurred you into action? Just might have to turn this on. There you go.
Bruce reminded me I only had 2 minutes. There's a lot I could say, but one of the things in Denauder was a concern with, I shared with many people about our environment. And I met one day an environmental visionary. And if it hadn't been for this man, this organization would not be here tonight. And he's going to be really ticked off when I do this. But Rick Gamble, come on, Rick. And Rick brought together an incredibly eclectic group of people. Boy, did we scrap at the beginning. Oh, jeez. And Rick pointed out to all of us that we could have all the energy and the concern about our environmental thing. We were at where the rubber met the road in a sense, but we really needed to get it on the agenda of politicians and the government. Rick was municipal, the mayor, where the rubber meets the road. And tonight I'd like to acknowledge the support of Dr. John Gerard, who in those early years really helped us move forward to acquire a voice at the provincial level. And another voice was Anita Neville, who also helped us to acquire a voice at the federal level. And there's all sorts of things that grabbed me in those first years, but I just wanted to draw attention to those three people because they were very, very important in terms of helping the people's agenda move forward into the future. Bruce?
I'm supposed to follow up on that? Robin's always been a great speaker. Did you have a specific question for me?
Yeah. What inspired you to join in and act?
One day I came out to the lake in midweek. My wife was there with the grandchildren. She said, I had to take the kids out of the lake today because this green slime came by. You should go down and look at it. I went down and looked at it, and that was a permanent impression, the first time I'd ever seen it. And that was, I think, the singular thing that made me join. When Rick came, stopped on the road by my place, I was mowing the lawn or something, and he said, what do you think if we started a foundation to save the lake? I said, sounds like a good idea. I never realized it would develop into this, where the 10 founding board members are now, what was the number, 1,200 members today? So that's 1,000 times? No, 100 times? 100 times. We're shooting for 10,000, for 1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, it just, I'm amazed at how it grew. And that's what caused me to join.
Great, thank you very much. From the beginning, the Lake Winnipeg Foundation has been a membership-based organization. We have always recognized the power and the importance of engaging the grassroots community. So now I'm going to turn to Karen and Roger and ask you the question, what is the importance of Lake Winnipeg Foundation's membership community? What role do the members play in the success of the organization?
Well, I think if it weren't for the members, we wouldn't exist. It was the members at the beginning that provided the funding, the grassroots movement, the work, the volunteers that moved the organization along through the years. It's been the advocacy, and I think you've heard a lot of what Alexis has said in her presentation. All of that is the backbone of this organization. And I would like to put a shout out to one of our very, very hard-working members from that time, and she's still a great support, is Janet Sampson, who did a huge amount of work in membership in those years. Those first few years, she did all of the members, she took in all of the money, she wrote all of the thank you notes, and did an amazing job in helping us move and grow our membership.
I'll be brief because maybe I could hand my 2 minutes back to Robin and Bruce, but I would just like to emphasize, and Karen brought it up as well, but Alexis said earlier tonight how the membership can really amplify the message and amplify the voice, and that's really important. It helps to kind of generate consensus around the evidence-based ideas and solutions that the foundation is presenting to the public and to various levels of government. And if we can gather around that message and encourage that message to grow in volume and encourage the membership to grow, I think that is a very positive way to continue the great work that the founding members started 20 years ago today.
For sure, thank you. Members will always be the engine that drives the work that the Lake Winnipeg Foundation does, and the support that our members have given us, as Karen and Roger have just mentioned, has been integral to make the Lake Winnipeg Foundation the resilient and the long-standing organization that it is today. So thank you very much to our members for all of that. We've also seen our challenges. It hasn't been all rainbows at the Lake Winnipeg Foundation. 5 years ago, the Lake Winnipeg Foundation's 15th anniversary was unfortunately dwarfed by the COVID-19 pandemic. And so Mike and Selena both were chairs of the board during this time. Maybe both of you could speak to the challenges and what made the Lake Winnipeg Foundation resilient and relevant through that challenging time.
Well, what made it resilient was the people, both the staff members and the board we had at the time. It didn't hurt that we're a science-based organization, so it doesn't take too much convincing to people to take the COVID issue seriously. If the feature of that the staff have at the time and still do have an incredible culture of planning. So I think there was the week of March the 11th when the COVID started to become a little more real in Winnipeg. The staff were already planning for how this might impact them. They had arranged meetings. That week, one of the members' staff had developed symptoms, and they'd already started discussing staying home and isolating themselves. But they already had meetings planned for the following week, which were to begin discussing how they could manage either people having to isolate themselves or actually having to start working from home. That weekend, on the Sunday night, I sent out an email to the board asking them to inform the staff that we were closing the office, and that while the office was closed, they would be continued to be paid. So immediately we took off the agenda, off the table, any issue of the office being open and whether or not staff were going to be paid, so they could then do their planning just around how they were going to start working from home. I sent out the email on a Sunday evening. I had all of the necessary votes to move that issue forward by, I think, 8 o'clock the next morning, so the board instantly responds. It was a very strong bond of trust between the board and the staff at the time, and I think people were quite willing to turn on a dime and try something different, and in this case they had to, but there's been other cases where they've had to change, or there's been elected changes. So it was the staff and the atmosphere and background in planning and being out in front of events as much as possible.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, to echo Mike, definitely the staff, the sense at LWF is that it's a family. So the staff all support each other, and they work together like a family does. And I would say the board did too. There were definitely some challenges. I found it incredibly hard. I was working all day online, so taking meetings online, and then to have board meetings once a month online as well, with challenging internet connections. And the screen, when you're chairing a meeting and people are sat around a table and you know where they are, they're not moving. We don't play musical chairs. But in online meetings, it's musical chairs all the time, and you're like, are they there? Where are they? Have we lost them? You know, and it's got better with better internet connection. And one thing that really impressed me was at that time when we all pivoted to working from home, there was the preparation for the community-based monitoring network season, and how was that going to happen? How were the bottles going to get out to the samplers? How were the bottles going to come back into LWF? How were they going to be processed? How were they going to be analyzed? And the staff, especially Chelsea, did a fantastic job of working out the logistics of how to do that safely, keep everyone safe, and keep the program going. Because imagine if we'd lost that 2020 year of data, and then of course 2021 as well, and then it stretched into 2022. You know, all of that data, if we'd lost it, that would have been a big hit on our advocacy. So it was really important to be able to keep that going, and I was really impressed with the way the staff managed to pivot, were flexible, and they got things done, even if I know there was a staff member who was in the office on their own and was a bit freaked out by the mice. Yay!
Thank you for that reminder, Selena. Bruce, you now get the opportunity to talk about looking ahead. So you took on the role of chair once, kind of as we emerged from the pandemic. Where do you see the Lake Winnipeg Foundation moving in the next 20 years?
What I loved about this mental dreaming exercise into the future was I didn't bat an eye for a second that we would exist in the future, which speaks testament to the relevance of the work that's being done. The problems the lake faces are likely not going away. They're, in some cases, going to become more complicated and maybe more urgent. LWF is going to meet that challenge. I foresee 15, 20 full-time staff, an accoutrement of temporary staff, and that's certainly the depth of volunteers. So I do see that same work being done, the evidence to meet looking at the stressors, but maybe more sophisticated in the next 2 decades to actually get out onto the landscape and start doing corrective actions. So almost like we've caught up to the momentum pushing us backwards, and we're starting to move and actually addressing the issue. And I see us taking the lead for that. It's the same way that you do such great work already in the advocacy pieces where there's missing policies. you fill those gaps to make sure that those exist, and where they do exist but they're not being enforced, that's the advocacy power. So I see that growing. I see the membership base really inflating because the work is valuable and it's getting results. So people will attach themselves to that winning team. I think the only last thing I would say is it's a natural evolution, the way that we're working right now in coalition and in allyship with the Indigenous nations on the lake, and I really see that being a beautiful part of the future. So yeah, things look good in the future for LWF.
I like the rosy colored glasses. That's great. For me, my vision, I was also dreaming about the future of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation. I dream of a time where we don't have to convince people that it's just phosphorus. We don't need to worry about the other nutrients that are causing algal blooms. It's just phosphorus. If everyone agreed on that, and then we could finally move forward efficiently and effectively to make solutions and enact those solutions for the Lake Winnipeg. With that, dreaming that, making sure everyone's on the same page, we can move forward more efficiently, we wouldn't have to be constantly advocating on that issue, and then perhaps we could start working on other issues that are affecting Lake Winnipeg, like microplastics, or we could, I don't know if we can do anything about zebra mussels, but at least we could maybe learn a little bit more about them, because we won't have to be constantly advocating on just phosphorus. That's my dream for the next 20 years. We'll see. In 20 years, I'll make sure I'm back at the AGM, and we'll see if that happens. Now, I'm going to have all of the panelists answer the same question. We'll start down at the end with Bruce, and we'll just move the mic back down this way. The Lake Winnipeg Foundation has some incredible success over the years, the 20 years that it's been around. What accomplishment are each of you most proud of from your time as board chair? Bruce?
I will just start by saying it's easy to be a chair when you have excellent directors, staff, and an amazing team of board members, and having members supporting the organization. So just to preface that, I'm quite proud of the Lake Winnipeg Basin Fund work. It was a real test of our collective strengths and advocacy, but staying really strong to a position that we deserve to be part of how funding is directed to solve some of these issues, because that's what we do, and we do it really well. And it was very challenging moving from the Environment and Climate Change Canada and trying to navigate as they passed the baton to the new Canada Water Agency. And it was a slippery terrain to navigate. And there was obviously ongoing challenges, and they'll continue with your tenure as chair, but that's something that stood out for me as a success and something I'm proud of, so thanks.
Selena?
For me, it has to be the work on the sewage treatment works, and just thinking about the advocacy and the positioning that LWF took, and the recognition of Alexis on the advisory committee when they were making decisions about what steps to take. A small organization in terms of numbers of people, but such power, such recognition of the expertise and the expertise that sat behind Alexis as director, with the Science Advisory Council. That was hugely powerful, and it shows how the strides that LWF has taken since its formation.
All of the above. But I think I'll throw out the community-based monitoring program, and not because it produces a lot of really nice data and helps to answer scientific questions and provide management guidance, but just for the organization itself, it sort of provided a core activity. Like advocacy, the wins don't come that often. You're advocating, and you get a win, and then there's a lapse before you have another win. Whereas the community-based monitoring program was going on all the time. It brought funding to the organization. It allowed them to hire staff. It achieved a little better critical mass of staff in the office. It involved people out in the watershed who don't have a cottage are not likely to go to the beach on Lake Winnipeg, but they're way out there in the watershed, and they're interested in doing something to help monitor the quality of the water that's coming off the watershed. So it gave a chance for some of the staff members to really develop their skills in organizing a program and interacting with the public and other agencies. It gave the foundation some currency when dealing with other government agencies. They had this data set which was quite credible and quite believable and something they didn't have. So they got some, it opened a few doors. So it sort of was a nice ongoing, every year it was happening activity that provided some internal energy to the organization, I think.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike, your impact on this organization is massive. There's much to be proud of. I also think that being around when the start of the community-based monitoring program was in its infant years and beginning to grow it was a fascinating time, and to see where the program has evolved towards and where it's going is incredible. My small part, a friend of mine tonight reminded me that perhaps I should talk about my love of bicycles. So something that I am proud of during my time with the organization was lending my odd version of support to the community-based monitoring program by organizing a charity bike ride that we did for 5 years, with funding going to the support of the program in its early days. And so I would like to think that some of the blood, sweat, and the broken gears that we had out on the highway somehow managed to provide the seed money that grew the monitoring program into the very impressive and quite extensive program that it is today.
And also potentially inspired the next version of the fundraising bike ride. Yes, Bike to the Beach.
It's good to see it continue.
Yeah. Karen?
When I came on as, we were presidents then, as president, thanks to my predecessors, Robin, Ann, and Bruce, and some very strong board members, Don Winston, who was our treasurer for a very long time, Janet, I've already mentioned, Catherine Salke. We had been able to grow the organization to beyond the grassroots that we had started as. And it became obvious during that time that we had grown to an extent where volunteerism alone wasn't going to help us meet our goals and to grow the organization. I had nothing to do with this, but one of our board members, Aaron Keating, who was the treasurer then, came to me and said, we need to hire an executive director. That kind of scared me because I had no idea how we were going to pay for this. Anyways, I was smart enough to back off and let those who know better to take the lead. And we went into the process of searching for an executive director, setting up the parameters for what we were requiring. And the result of all of that was we hired Alexis. I take full credit for that. But that decision by the organization and some very smart people on our board, I think, was a pivotal moment in the organization. It changed the direction without losing what we had already built. It just moved us forward and set us on the track that we are now. And for that, I'm proud is the wrong word. I just feel really satisfied and feel like I've really contributed something with my board at the time to move this organization forward.
I remember that. I sat down with Alex Salke and Catherine Salke and we had this giant RBC grant application. Went on for pages and pages and pages. And I went into the city 3 days in a row, and Alex and I worked at it, worked at it, worked at it. We sent it in, and only thing I regret is that we only asked for $80,000. It seems like it came too easily, but look what it caused. Next year, Alexis was hired. So those were good times.
The things that, some of the things I remember that were most rewarding, but they were the most awful, was navigating our first board through getting charitable status. The feds were incredibly suspicious of our motives. It was, without a doubt, the process of 1,000 cuts, and helping the board navigate through that, and also setting up our long-term goals, navigating that, and our bylaws and procedures, all sort of beginning things that was frustrating as hell, but important at the beginning. But the reward for that, in terms of my own personal involvement, was I was doing an elementary school campaign. And I would go out to elementary schools with a bunch of buckets and hoses and dye and do things with elementary school children and their teachers. I love that. And so it made all that pain worthwhile. So I really enjoyed doing that.
Thank you all. I need to check with the MC because she's very strict with time. Do we have a time for one last question for the panel, or should we close it up?
I don't even have a watch.
We just have one last closing question for everyone. If you don't have a final thought, then don't worry, we can skip you over. But if you have any final thoughts while we have you here sharing your wisdom with everyone, we would love to hear it. Robin, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, at the end of my life, my final thought.
Less than 2 minutes.
More than 2 minutes. It's just great to be here and great to see this organization prospering 20 years after the fact. And Rick, an environmental visionary, here tonight, Rick. Again, I'm thankful to see you sitting here. Thank you.
I also am so glad to be here tonight. It's great to see you. I don't know many of you. I know a few. And I guess there's apparently about 1,000 others that I don't know. I'm glad you've all joined.
I don't have any final thoughts. I'm just delighted to see how this organization has grown, the things that it's doing, and I look forward to it moving forward and doing other great things.
Yes, it's wonderful to be here tonight and see some old faces and old friends, and I guess I do want to congratulate the staff and all the directors and all the volunteers and the membership itself for creating the space for this type of conversation to happen and for this type of advocacy to happen.
Ditto for everything that has already been said. I had thoughts about the future. Certainly, I see the foundation existing. I would like to, I guess one of the many strategic planning sessions we had, I facetiously said that our goal should be putting ourselves out of business so that we're so successful we achieve all of the ends and then we can all go home and do other things. But I guess what my dream would be is that in 20 years' time or 10 years' time, the foundation still exists, but it exists in a framework where Lake Winnipeg is either a corporation or a person, and there is a body of law that the foundation can advocate on behalf of the lake before those laws. So I would hope that that between the foundation and the Indigenous communities, they put considerable effort in trying to have Lake Winnipeg establish some legal status, either in normal corporate law or in personhood law, but just to make their job so much easier.
It's been great to be here tonight, and I really thank you for the invitation. It's been great to hear about all the wonderful stuff that's happening and the challenges still there. And you know, it's reignited my enthusiasm. And you know, I needed to step away a couple of years ago, but you know, I'm there thinking, well, maybe I could sign up as a volunteer again.
I'll just close with some gratitude and love for the lake that we all recognize, and you know, certainly the gifts it's given me throughout my life, and hopefully through my kids and on to different generations. So I did something a friend of mine sent me the other day. I think it was from an anonymous artist, but he talked about, what if you could play capitalism backwards, like put it in reverse. He said you'd see rich billionaires coming down from space and returning wealth to the people and cleaning up the planet. And I thought that was kind of beautiful, so I thought I'd share that with you.
Thank you all very much. It sounds like one of the themes through all of our responses is really the people at the heart of this organization, whether it's the board of directors, the amazing staff that we have, the membership, the volunteers, people who write songs about the lake, people who do bike rides for the lake, the people who are out there collecting water samples. We are truly grateful to everyone that is helping us at the Lake Winnipeg Foundation to get the message out and to be part of this amazing community in support of our Great Lake here in Manitoba. So thank you all very much for being a part of this community. And thank you to all of our previous chairs for being here tonight to share their wisdom and their knowledge on the foundation. Thank you. So now I'm going to pass it back to our MC, Chelsea, and we can all take a seat again.
Okay, please join me in thanking our panelists and moderator again. That was very inspiring. And we have a small token of appreciation for each and every one of you, so please make sure you come find me afterwards. And Bruce, I just wanted to say I was working on an RBC application this morning, so some things never change. No. Okay. Before we wrap up tonight, I'd like to take this opportunity to provide a quick update on LWF's 2025 summer events. So our 20th anniversary events include this year's Walk for Water Victoria Beach, which will take place on Sunday, July 13th. So that's a different weekend than it's been previously, so make sure you make note of that. The Bike to the Beach, which returns for its 6th field season on Friday, August 8th, sorry. And for our 20th birthday, we are excited to return to where it all began with Walk for Water Denauder on Sunday, August 24th. We'll be sharing more details about these events and others on our website, lakewinnipegfoundation.org, and on our social media channels, which if you don't follow, you can get more information at the outreach table. So that concludes our 2025 AGM. Thank you again to the incredible panelists for joining us tonight. Thanks to the LWF staff team, Mackenzie, Kanak, Anna, Carl, Michelle, Fallon, for all their help making this event a success. And thanks to Phase 5 Productions for live streaming tonight's event for us. And last but never least, thanks to you, LWF members, for joining us tonight, for supporting our work with your donations and your dedication to Lake Winnipeg. It's because of all of you that a healthy Lake Winnipeg is possible. And now we have the space until 9 p.m., so please stay and mingle with your fellow lake lovers. There's some cookies there, I see, so we can continue to enjoy the evening. Thank you.